Good morning, beloved ones.
Good morning.
Yes. Well, I'm back. Yeah. Thank you. And it's always good to come back and to see where I am when I do come back into what some might call the routine of life. And I always like to see, where I am and if I'm able to drive to work in a peaceful state. Or if I've had any kind of reaction and I go, wow, that was 2 weeks wasted, but. But so far, so good. So far, so good. People always ask me, why do you keep going back to India? And I thought about it, and it's basically for two reasons. One, because it's important for me to fill my cup. It's important for me to fill my cup so that I can be renewed and refreshed, and that I'm able to pour out into you from the fullness that lies within. Not from the empty cup that's struggling and straining, but from that fullness of who I am. And so it's really good for me to go away in that manner. I still need one of these, I still need the beach kind of vacation, because I always tell people they think that this is a retreat, or this is a working experience. We're studying, we are writing notes and notes and notes. We are meditating, and we are doing yoga, and we are doing all those other things, but it's not where you're just lying on the beach reading some gentle book. I still need that kind of experience, but this feeds my spirit and soul. So that's one reason. And the main reason I think I return so often there is because I'm taking a program and a course, and it's progressive, so you take a class and it builds on to the next class. But the main reason I keep going back is because it is where I get the chance to look into myself. To look into myself. To see what is there, because sometimes we are so busy doing life that we don't have an opportunity to stop for a minute and to see what really is going on within our lives, because we're so busy doing life, right? Or living life in the routine, that we aren't able to take the time for that deep reflection. Well, what is happening within? And so we begin to live unconsciously, right? Just doing whatever comes up automatically. But you see, there can be no real growth, no inner growth, if you cannot, or one does not take the time to go within and to connect. Not only to connect with God and to connect with the divine, but to connect with oneself. It is so easy to lose ourselves in the process of living, so that our living then becomes simply existing. Not living, but existing, doing the things that are necessary for our survival, for the maintenance of life as usual. But if we're going to grow, we've got to really take time to understand where we are. Now, most people are afraid to really take a look at themselves. We all know that we have some bad habits and we have some flaws, and we keep it all surface. We kind of know, but we really don't want you to know that we have these, and we really want to keep it surface. We haven't really looked underneath as to why we feel certain things or we show up in certain ways. And so we're afraid to really look within. And so whatever's happening, usually it's easy for us to say that whatever's happening is happening for another reason. It's the circumstance, it's the situation, it's the other person, the other person's fault. That's the problem, they're the problem, this situation is the problem. It's very rare for us to say, you know what? I'm the problem. How often have you said, you know what? I'm the problem. Turn to somebody and tell them, you know what? I'm the problem. You know what? I'm the problem. I mean, if I actually had, engaged in some kind of connection where somebody came up to me and said, you know what, man, I'm the problem. I haven't heard that yet. But, and I'm just learning to say that to myself. And maybe to others. You know what? I'm the problem. All right, that's okay. And the O&O Academy, where I go, they make it safe for you to see yourself. Because most of the time we don't want to look because we feel vulnerable, right? We feel that if I let you really see what's going on and see who I am, you might reject me. You might not love me. You might judge me. You might think poorly of me, whatever. So I've got to keep myself contained in the image that I'm projecting at all costs so that I could avoid those things. But I go because the O&O Academy makes it safe for you to see yourself. In fact, the processes that we engage in is all designed to do this, that is designed to help us look at ourselves in a safe way and in a fashion where you're not feeling judged, because we're all doing the same process. And the guides or the monks or whatever, they really are there to assist you, and they don't let you get away with, you know how we could get away with, oh, I'm fine, everything's okay. They'd be like, They go right on in there. So, it's a wonderful thing. And so it's designed to help us to connect to God, of course, to connect to the source, to connect to the divine, and to connect with ourselves. And then we are better able to do what? To connect with the other, the sacred other. So this is it's a wonderful opportunity to go. And I just want to, as an aside, it's about, they're going to have a course here, I think in November 7th, 10th and 11th, called Source and Synchronicities. And this is how helping you to connect to the source, which of course we call God, but to connect with the source so that the synchronicities of life, the miracles of life, the grace of life, the goodness flows to you easier when we have an opportunity to connect. That'll be happening the weekend of November 7th, and I'm just putting it out there because I think it would be great, instead of you having to travel to India and stay 2 weeks, it's going to be a weekend course. You can get some exposure to the teachings and the processes to help open you up. And so they're going to come via Zoom. The guides, they will come to us. So think about that. I just wanted to put that on the radar for you in case you wanted to do that. Now, the course that I just finished completing was called Self-Knower, Level 1. The previous courses were Truth Knower, Level 1 and 2, Life Knower, Level 1 and 2, and we just finished Self Knower, Level 1, and Level 2 will come later. So just by the title of that course, you can figure out it was about what? Self, knowing self, right? Self and knowing self. And I must say, and everybody's been writing about it, that this was probably the most transformative and impactful course that I've taken in all the times that I've been going back there. And because simply is we dove deep. A lot of times we do like to do surface swim. We dove deep into looking at ourselves. And we dove deeply into what is it that actually stops us from living in a beautiful state. And a beautiful state is a beautiful state of what? Consciousness, a beautiful state of mind. Not necessarily living in a beautiful life and having a beautiful life. Because they're more focused on, do you have a beautiful state? Because if you're just trying to have a beautiful life and your state is jacked up, something's not going to match, right? Which is what we do, which is why we oftentimes feel quite empty. Because we're trying to have the beautiful life, running here, running there, doing this, without having the beautiful state. And so there's a disconnect. There's a sense of emptiness. Well, I tried to reach for this and this didn't feel it, and I did this and this didn't do it, and I accomplished that and that didn't do it. So it's about having that beautiful, what they call a beautiful state. And so we were looking at, well, what stops us from moving into this beautiful state, and how do we get ourselves out of the way? So that was the design of the course. We started with the premise of this. We started with the premise that basically we live in two states. We either live in the state of we're either in suffering or we're not. All right, there are other states. People say there's love or fear. This is just, it's just a construct, how they use it, right? So they said we're either in suffering, a state of suffering, or we are not. And we've all remembered the adage, we've heard the adage that says pain is inevitable, but suffering is what? A choice. Okay, so great. These people over here got that. I'm going to say it again for you all in the back. Pain is inevitable, meaning in life, you're going to have a little bit of pain. Something is going to cause you pain. But suffering is a choice. Because the pain is it's a one-time thing. Well, we're not talking physical pain here, because we know that you can be in physical pain and that kind of thing. But we're talking about something that occurs and you have pain or whatever. But when you keep repeating and reliving the pain that has already happened, you are into what? Suffering. So we're either in a suffering state, the state of suffering, or not. And when your inner state is one of suffering, you are probably feeling disconnected. There's probably a level of that you're in conflict of some type. You may be upset, maybe having anger or fear. You may be judging. You might find yourself judging the situation, judging other people. Maybe you're comparing. You can be in a state of suffering when you're comparing. Well, I wish I could be like them, but I'm not. Or they have this, I have that. That's suffering for you. Measuring yourself against, I'm not good enough, as good as, or whatever. Suffering is happening. Or maybe you want things to be different. You want things to change. You're not able to accept it is what it is. You want it to be what you think it should be. And because it isn't what you think it should be, you're suffering because it is what it is. And so we suffer. Maybe you're resisting. Something has occurred and you're resisting. And when you're resisting, you're stuck to the challenge. You're stuck to the process. And we know the spiritual law of non-resistance means it's not about not making change, but when you're resisting, you can't even make change because you're stuck in the battle. You're fighting. You're there. You're present. You can't move on. Or maybe perhaps you are struggling to find inner peace. There's inner turmoil and angst. Or maybe you are feeling unloved, disregarded, insignificant. You're suffering. All these particular states that we experience from time to time is our suffering. But when we are not suffering, when you are not suffering, you are in a higher state, and it's something that they call you're in a beautiful state. So either you are suffering or you're in a beautiful state. Now, when you are in a beautiful state, that's when you feel connected. You feel connected to others. You feel a sense of peace within yourself. You're open. You may be open to whatever comes. You're open to explore. You're open to be. You're more accepting of what is. You're loving. You're in harmony with life, with people. And even those who you disagree with, there's a certain level of when you're in a beautiful state, it's like, all right, I can bless the other. You see, you offer blessings rather than correction. But blessings so that whatever actions and interactions you have with other people are coming from a clean space so that there's less resistance on their part because they're not feeling judged by you or challenged by you or whatever. And so therefore they become more willing to relate to you even if you have disagreements or you're on the opposite side, but there's a transference of energy of when you're in this beautiful state that allows that connection to take place. So it's not a sense of separateness and otherness, but a sense of, okay, oneness. We're in this together. And basically, the short of it is, when you're in a beautiful state, we're happier. That's the short and long of it is, we are happier. And everybody wants to be happy, if nothing else. Is there anybody here who does not want to be happy? Everybody wants to be happy, right? We want to be happy, right? Now, hopefully we know that true happiness is a state of mind, correct? You all know that. At least you've been coming here long enough, you ought to know that as true students. Happiness is a state of mind. We want to be happy, but happiness is a state of mind. It's an inside job, right? And in fact, we actually hold the key to our own happiness. We hold what's called the golden key. You hold the golden key to your own happiness. Because what? It is a state of being. It is an inside job. So you hold the key to your happiness. You get to decide whether you will live your life like it's golden, by whether or not you're maintaining and holding your own golden key to happiness, your own happiness. You get to determine by the quality of your thoughts, feelings, perceptions, beliefs, interpretations, you get to determine whether or not you are remaining in a happy state. Because it's a state of mind and being of our own making. That's the truth of it, right? Of our own making. Nobody else makes us happy. Nothing else can make you happy. That's the illusion we have fallen under for so long, right? If I could just get this, I'll be happy. When this happens, then I'm going to be happy. When they act this way, I'm going to be happy. But it's of your own making and your own choosing. Now, here's the kicker. If happiness is of your own making, guess what? Suffering is also of your own making. Barring physical pain. We're not talking about physical discomfort. But our internal state, when our internal suffering is up and running for us, it is also due to our state of mind. It's also due to how we're seeing things, interpreting things. And we have the choice. We have the choice because we can choose to live in and experience a beautiful state, or we can choose to live in and experience what? A state of suffering. Both are of our choice. Now, if this is true, you might ask yourself, well, why in the world would anybody choose to be in a state of suffering? Nobody in their right mind would choose that, right? That's because we don't do it consciously. We don't choose to suffer consciously, but it is the result of some of our unconscious choices. It is the result of some things that we have put out there unbeknownst to ourselves, and how we see life and how we choose to live our life and how we think it should be, what the parameters should be, how you should love me, how you should treat me, what should happen at this point in my life. All of those things are subjective to our really suffering when they don't what? Occur. It's primarily because of how we are focused on ourselves. They call this I consciousness. I consciousness. Me, 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 me. Look at what's happening to who? To me. Look what they did to me. Look, I need, I want, I think, I feel, and it's focusing on ourselves to the degree that we become self-absorbed, we become self-centered, we become self-inflicted. See, the pain and the suffering is an infliction of our own doing because we are so focused on ourselves that we become oblivious to what they call one consciousness. You can live in I consciousness where you're totally focused on getting all of your needs met and having everything just so, or you can focus on one consciousness. And the one consciousness then, it includes naturally the other. It also includes a connection to life. When you're in one consciousness, you broaden your horizon beyond just yourself. So it's not just your world and, everybody else is just a guest, but that you're a part of it. See, in one consciousness, everything is connected because that's the truth of life. Is it not? We are all connected. The trees, the earth, the air, the animals, everybody. we are connected. When that butterfly flaps its wings in the Amazon, it affects the air right here. There's a matrix of life. But we have mistakenly thought, I live alone. I'm doing life on my own. As opposed to, let me open up into an expanded field of consciousness in which I am a part of the greater scheme of things. I'm a part of the universe. I'm not separate from the universe. I'm not separate from you. I'm one with every living thing. And when we begin to function from that consciousness, the whole way that you perceive life shifts. Your whole life begins to shift at that point. And so sometimes we have to recognize when we're in I consciousness, and when you're in I consciousness, it's also easy to feel very separate, right? You feel separated from people. You feel separated from life, right? And so then we struggle to try to figure out, well, maybe I need to connect. I'm not sure how I can connect with you, but I want to. But I want you to, when I'm in I consciousness, we're so overwhelmed with us, we want to make sure that we're getting our needs met, or we want to have things go our way, or we get hung up on being right at any cost, or maybe we get hung up in being in control, or we have expectations of others, because when I'm in my I consciousness, you need to relate to me how I think you should be relating to me, right? I've got expectations, right? When I come here on Sunday morning, I have the expectation that you'll be here. And that you'll listen. That's expectations. Because when that doesn't happen, and if that doesn't happen, guess what happens? I suffer. Why isn't this like this? What happened? Why aren't they? We move into suffering. We move into a sense of inner turmoil and conflict and angst and discomfort and disconnection, maybe even from life itself. So why would we choose suffering? Sometimes we do that because we are unaware that we have actually given our golden key to happiness away. I give it to you. I'll give it to the church. I give it to my family. I give it to my employer. I give it to my neighbor. We give the golden key that is ours because we recognize, right, happiness is what it is. It's up to us. It's our perceptions, but we give it away, especially if we believe that other people are supposed to make us happy. If I believe you're supposed to I'm going to give you my golden key to make me happy. Or if we have the expectations that the perfect situation is going to make me happy, the perfect circumstance is going to make me happy, the perfect events or the acquisitions or the accomplishments. Maybe if I get this title and I become a PhD, I become a lawyer, whatever it is, that's going to fulfill me. That's going to make me happy. You're giving away your golden key. Because here's the thing. Whenever we give our sense of happiness to anything that is external from our own selves, we're going to be in a world of hurt. You understand? Because you're not going to be able to do it both, having it. So what happens is we begin to suffer. How many times have you given your golden key to somebody else who you thought was going to make you happy, and they disappointed you? They didn't behave as you wanted them to. They didn't love you like you needed and wanted and told them they need to love you. Right? Maybe you wanted them to change and they didn't want to. You wanted them to do certain things and they didn't. All of that causes you to give away your golden key to happiness. I've watched myself do it. We've all done this. We've been in, maybe in relationships, and I'm going to give you my heart. I'm going to give you my love. And so we give them the golden key, and maybe we give them the door that goes with the golden key, and then we give them the whole darn house. Take my golden key, take the door, take the house, the windows, everything. And when it doesn't pan out, you just collapse, right? You're in a state of despair because there's nothing to bring you to despair. It's like when love don't work. Why? You're in a sense of, why? You gave the key to your happiness away. Whenever you place the responsibility for your happiness onto someone or something else, you give away the golden key. Whenever you let your mind be hijacked by obsessive thinking, by erroneous thinking, by jealousy, fear, doubt, by self-centeredness, you are giving away the golden key. See, when you let yourself be taken over by any of these other emotions, you are giving yourself and the key to your happiness away. So here's a clue for you, so that you'll know that you're in suffering. Because sometimes, see, suffering, we've done it for so long, we don't even recognize we're suffering. It's habituated, right? It becomes the norm. We think we're supposed to feel this way. We're not supposed to be living in a beautiful state all the time. Why not? Why not live in an elevated consciousness all the time? So we think, this is normal, but here's a clue for you. When you find yourself engaging in replaying conversations over and over, you're going to suffer. Because what you're doing is you're caught up in obsessive thinking, right? Having a conversation, it's over. It didn't happen. It's not real. But yet you're stuck there in that loop. When you find yourself thinking the why question, well, why did this happen? Why did they do this? You're in suffering because you might not ever know why. Even if they tell you why, it might not always be the truth. You might not be able to get that. Why is not a question that you need to be asking in certain times. It keeps you in suffering. When you're feeling hurt and you feel that hurt over and over and over and the incident has already happened, you're in suffering. You can't let it go. When all of a sudden you're not forgiving, you're being you have a sense of unforgiveness. When you can't forgive, you are suffering. Not them, you. When you're blaming someone else or somebody else for your own internal state, I'm going to blame you for my internal state. You're suffering, right? When you're judging people, judging their behavior, judging their actions, and when it doesn't match to meet what you think should be occurring, you're suffering. And yet we all do these things, and it never leads us to a good place, to a positive, loving state. But we carry on anyway. We do it anyway. And so we've got to learn how to practice being in this state of a beautiful state, of allowing, of focusing, opening up so that whatever it is, I offer my love. I wanted to share some of the teachings. I wrote my talk, but then Spirit said this morning just to read some of these of my notes. And I just picked a couple, so it's not going to be sequential. But I thought this was some things. Can I read some of my notes? These are my notes that I've taken. Because if you tell me no, I'll suffer. This is about, so this mid-morning, this was the 11th day, one of the morning sessions, and we were talking about awakening to what is, or the state of isness. That is, learning how to be with the what is. It's the isness of life, okay? Learning how to be with the one is. And to transfer the state to every experience that you have. Total awareness without judging it. Being with the what is total awareness without judging it or wanting to push it away or to have it last, because sometimes we like those good states too. If you're having a good time, you want that good time to stay forever, and then when it goes away, you're what? Suffering. It is what it is. If it was 10 minutes, great. It was a great 10 minutes, let it be, okay? Okay, y'all. See, I wasn't even going there. You see how they do? I tell you. Anyway, just be present to all that is. So here's the thing. It says, I love this one. This is a note. Don't give your hurts, disappointments, rejections, humiliation, etc. more meaning than it is. If it could be just a rejection or a hurt or disappointment. Simply see it and name it what it is. That's all. Just bring your undivided attention and presence to see it. So what this is saying is, don't build a story around your hurt. Don't build a story around your rejection. If you got hurt, it's a hurt. If you're disappointed, it's simply you're disappointed. But we then take it to the nth degree and make it into something, which one of the things it says, don't make everything a lesson. I like that one. And then it says, this is one good. What stops us from experiencing the what is? Our thoughts, our perceptions, our fears, etc. But then I wrote, that the teaching was, but the main thing that stops us from experiencing whatever is what they call psychological becoming. The psychological becoming is being obsessed with what we think should be. See, when you are in psychological becoming, whatever is not good enough. It should be this. So I'll become that. This situation will become better when, right? So the should be is more important to us than what actually is. That's when you know you're getting ready to get into suffering. When the should be, because it should be like this. It should be. But it actually isn't. This is what it is. And the suffering comes in that. So the solution, I wrote, is peaceful observation to your truth. So if you're feeling whatever it is that's happening, observe it. That's your truth. Don't try to make it what it should be. It says, so the solution is peaceful observation to your truth. Peaceful observation to what is happening within you, not focusing on what you think or feel should be. Focus on what you think, what something should be. And then I thought this was a great thing I wanted to just share too. They had sort of an acronym, 3 aspects of suffering, and they said it's SAD. When you are engaged in suffering for a while, you end up being sad, but the SAD is the S, the A, and the D. And these are aspects of suffering, and the first S of suffering is that it's seductive. The longer you stay in the hurt, the longer you stay in the shame or whatever it is that you experience, the more the mind seduces you to stay there. Okay? And to go on and on and on in your negative, limited thoughts and comments and projects and made up stories about the people, circumstance, or experience. And when you are seduced by your suffering, what happens, you stay there until your intelligence, it says until your intelligence is being seduced, meaning that you lose all sense of rational, you know what I mean? You become, but they call it failure of intelligence. That's what they call it. When you just make stupid choices, you have a failure of intelligence. So then it says, whenever we do use what we know, awareness, we can come out of our suffering. But when you don't use it and remain in the suffering, our judgments, irrational thinking, and stories take over, and we don't get to right action. We act from suffering responses. Then we have a failure of intelligence. If you follow a path of division, you will continue to create division. Then the A for sad. And the aspect of suffering, not only does it seduce you to stay in it, but it's addictive. The more time we spend in suffering, the more we unconsciously set ourselves up to remain in it or to habitually return and remain in the suffering. So we keep returning to the state. That means victimhood. You know what I mean? Because you're addicted to being a victim. Well, this always happens to me. I can't catch a break. What? You are addicted to, you keep returning. It could be a beautiful thing, but you will turn it into some form of suffering because that's what you know. And they talked about, of course, we can become habituated to suffering, anger, like people. There are people who are angry all the time. That's just, you know people like that, right? It doesn't matter what's happening. It's like, oh, gosh. Are you ever happy? Are you ever satisfied? They're addicted to that suffering, to that anger, to that emotion. It's the only thing they know. So that's how they respond, even to joy. When we are habituated, we keep coming to the state over and over unconsciously. The neurological habit, and we know this part, the neurological habit, meaning the neural network becomes a path and becomes a habit, and the wiring of the brain causes us to keep repeating that same emotion over and over because we have created what? A neural pathway there. All right? So this practice of being in a beautiful state will help you to break the addictive habit of suffering. And this D, so we had seductive, suffering is seductive, it's addictive, and what do you think the D is? It's destructive. It is destructive. Suffering destroys not only us, but those around us because we bring our suffering and negativity to others. Whatever relationships you have, if you can't get out of your suffering, it's going to destroy that relationship, right? And they say, we want to quit. When it's destructive, it makes us want to quit. We want to quit when things get too deep, too long. We want to quit our relationships. We want to quit our work. We want to quit whatever we think is causing us stress and suffering. The option is to try to escape it and get away from it, right? And we may even want to quit life itself when you are in it. So suffering has destroyed happiness, connection for so long that now we just want to give up. So we want to dissolve the suffering, and what we want to do is dissolve the suffering and nurture our beautiful state. And then they gave us this powerful 6-step meditation to work on connecting with other people, to keep the sense of connection open, not suffering and separation, but connection. So this is really a powerful thing, because what we're trying to do is to see where we are at any given point in time. We have a choice. We can let go, and we can let the divine, we can let God move in, we can make right choices, we can give up the suffering. We have to notice, but here's how you do it, friends. You have to become aware of when you're in a suffering state. You have to become aware of when you're judging, complaining, measuring, comparing, in angst and turmoil, and whatever, even if we think it's justified, because we will justify something in a heartbeat and make it all right for us to be that way, when really we're hurting ourselves. It isn't all right. You want to live in a beautiful state, not a suffering state. You want to live in an elevated consciousness state, not a lower level vibration. So you don't want to justify that anytime you're in it. Don't make that right for you and for your life. And so the practice is, notice when you're in that state. Notice when you're in an I consciousness. Notice when you're making it all about you and you can't get into an expanded view. Notice when you're suffering, and if your suffering has become this is just the way that I am. It doesn't have to be the way that you are. It's a way that you are now unconsciously choosing to be. We can make another choice, and it's time for us to make another choice. Stop having expectations on people or even on yourself. Learn to be with the what is. What is God bringing? What is life showing? What is it here that I need to be about? And in the moment, and if I can bring my full and complete present self to the moment, I will be guided to do what is right. I'll make right choices. I'll make right decisions for myself. I won't be stuck in all these, it should be. I expect this. I want that. Let it flow. That's why I loved your song. Be like the water that knows how to move around the obstacles. Water doesn't stand there and struggle with the obstacle, you bad rock, and it moves around the rock. We can do that. That keeps us in a beautiful state in consciousness when we choose to do that. And when we don't struggle with others, our connections are deeper, your relation, there's more space. See, there's more space in your consciousness to be creative, more space to be loving, more space to take a higher point of view. But when we're in I consciousness, it's all in here. We're closed. The one consciousness gives us open, expanded. The divine has more room to move and to live and to have its being in and through and as us. And we begin to flow with grace and ease. It is what it is. And whatever we need to do, that's the next thing for us to do, will present itself, and we will begin to do it. So I would encourage all of us to make sure that we are not looking for other people or things or situations to bring us a sense of fulfillment. Your fulfillment will never come from anything in the external. It may be just a temporary little pleasure you get, but it's not lasting. Your sense of fulfillment can only be experienced from within. And so that's the state we want to have. We want to nurture that so that whatever is happening out here, whatever craziness and whatever drama, we are coming from the stability of our own souls. And when you come from that place of solid stability, regardless of what's happening, guess what? People will be attracted to you. You'll attract the good you need, the decisions. You won't be left and right. The resources you need will start coming to you because you're not out here giving away your key to happiness. So the choice of whether or not you're going to live your life like it's golden is up to you as to whether or not you keep your own golden key. As for me, I'm taking mine back. Blessings. Namaste. Blessings, blessings, blessings.
Angel asked me, do you know who you are? The question and the answer is not very far. The song of the sages, the knowledge of the ages is living where you reside. You have the key that unlocks the door to enter in that sacred place you haven't gone before, where deep meets deep, soul to soul. Feel that connection as the truth unfolds. I am, you aren't, hey, I am you are the answer, yes, you are the key that unlocks the door to freedom and leads you to me. Look deep inside, trust the force that guides you, it knows the way. Yeah, there's no separation, we're one and the same, a child of the Creator, known by different names, the Alpha and Omega, the eternal flame that burns deep inside you. Do you know my name? I am from the mountains to the oceans. I am from the rocks to the trees. I am all the stars and constellations. I am, you are. I am from the mountains to the oceans. I am from the rocks to the trees. I am all the stars and constellations. I am, you are. I'm spiritual and mystical. I am mystical. I am light. I am love. I live in you, and you live in me. From the very low, from the very low, to the heavens above. I am. Separation, we're one and the same, a child of the Creator, known by different names. The Alpha and Omega, the eternal flame. It burns deep inside you. Do you know my name? I am from the mountains to the oceans. I am from the rocks to the trees. I am all the stars and constellations. I am, you are. I am peace that passes all understanding. I am joy that's overflowing. I am love in abundance. I am, you are. I am.
And synchronicities, right? That's this new course, because I had no idea what he would be singing. Now, was that song not perfect for my lesson? I love it. When you are connected, the divine brings to you exactly what is needed. We don't have to struggle and strife. It comes. I couldn't have picked a better song than that. But the divine knew what I was going to speak about. I didn't even know. And did the work.